Pray, do not follow the teachings of those deluded ones who depend upon gods, or God even, various rites and routine actions, and such other perverse practices. And basically all religious and spiritual practice he's talking about here. This ocean of world appearance, this ocean of notions, can be crossed only when you are firmly established in supreme wisdom, when you see the self with the self alone, and when your intelligence is not diverted or coloured by sense perceptions. So when you see the self with the self alone, this is awareness of awareness. This is the attention attending to itself. And when your intelligence is not diverted or coloured by sense perceptions, this is when you're not caught up in any notions. Sense perceptions are notions themselves. Thus have I narrated to you how King Janaka attained self-knowledge, as if by an act of grace, which caused the knowledge to drop from heaven, as it were. As I've said before, this realization is something that you stumble on. It isn't something that can be found by any kind of practice. You're either aware or you're not. And I suspect it's actually very common. Most of us stumble on it maybe several times a day without realizing it, without being aware of what's actually going on, without appreciating what this awareness of ours is about. And once you've stumbled on it, then you can cultivate it. Once you know what you're cultivating, then you can get on with it. But a lot of spiritual seeking or spiritual practice is a bit like trying to cultivate a plant when you haven't actually put in the seed. One who cultivates the wisdom that Janaka had will experience the inner light in his own heart, and the ignorant fancy of world illusion will be instantly dispelled. The inner light in his own heart. Now, we need to be careful here. It's obvious that we're not talking about the literal heart here. We're talking about the heart of your own being, which is your awareness, and that's your inner light. And once you're in touch with that, then spiritual practice begins. When the limited and conditioned feeling, I am so and so, ceases, there arises consciousness of the all-pervading infinite. Hence, O Ram, like Janaka, you too abandon the false and fanciful notion of the ego sense within your own heart. So we give up. We abandon false and fanciful notions of a world illusion, of a world out there, and we give up notions of an ego sense. And we do it within our own heart. It's not just a kind of intellectual giving up. Okay, well, I can see the logic of this, or oh yes, I've heard that the world is an illusion, so I'll start treating it as such. You can only do this once you've actually stumbled onto your own awareness, once you're actually aware of your own awareness. And it's from that perspective that it becomes clear that notions of an external world and of an individual ego are simply that, no more than notions. It's the ego sense which takes us away from this awareness. When this ego sense is dispelled, the supreme light of self-knowledge will surely shine in your heart. This ego sense alone is the densest form of darkness. When it is dispelled, the inner light shines by itself. The ego sense goes hand in hand with notions of an external world. He who knows, I am not, nor does the other exist, nor is there non-existence, and whose mental activity has thus come to a standstill, is not engrossed in acquisitiveness. So it's quite important when we say, I am not, nor does the other exist, that we don't get into notions of non-existence. Oh, it doesn't exist, it's all delusion, it's all illusion. You know, you start sort of talking like that, or start believing that, you've just traded one set of notions for another, and neither is actually more accurate. It's about the mental activity which creates these notions that needs to stop. Well, it doesn't stop, but we can step aside from it, we can abandon them. And we're not engrossed in acquisitiveness then. O Ram, there is no bondage here other than craving for acquisition and the anxiety to avoid what one considers undesirable. Now you might think you're not a very materialist person and this sort of thing doesn't apply to you, but it can, we're talking about ideas here. You want to acquire ideas, you want to acquire beliefs. That is the really insidious acquisitiveness. We want to have an understanding of things, don't we? The desire for understanding is also a form of acquisition. We always want to believe, we want to make sure that we're believing the right thing, don't we? And that we're not believing the wrong things. Do not succumb to such anxiety, and do not let acquisition of what is considered desirable to be your goal. Giving up both these attitudes, rest in what remains. We're not really bothered about acquisition of objects, of belongings, because let's just say we've left that long behind. But it's mental acquisitions that we really put a lot of store on. Having the correct point of view. That kind of desire and anxiety needs to go as well. And more is said about that in the next chapter.